Hey YouTube, I am Tiberius and you're about to watch an edited recording of a Twitch stream. You can check out my Twitch using the link in the video description. If you enjoy the content, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel. Thank you and enjoy the video. So, how are we going to test for DOM XSS? We are going to use an awesome extension that comes with Burp Pro. I think actually it comes in Burp Community as well. This extension is called DOM Invader. Location.search source. Okay. So, view post, back to blogs, bit feedback. Okay, so we have returned. Right, so what we're going to do basically is open up this thing here. This is DOM Invader. We're going to turn it on. We're going to go down here. Message filtering by stack trace, auto fire events, and redirection prevention we're going to turn on. So, realistically, what we're going to do, you don't really need to understand what this one is. Auto fire events is epic. What auto fire events does when it's turned on is as soon as the page loads, the extension will click absolutely everything. It will click every element on the page. Right? So it's going to click this, it's going to click this, it's going to click this text, it's going to click this, all of this. It'll click it. Which would be an issue if not for redirection prevention. Redirection prevention means that if the browser tries to send us somewhere, this extension is not going to let it. Which has the upshot of, if we click something and it tries to take us to another page, and thereby prevent this extension from clicking the next thing, that won't happen. So, by enabling these two, it means that DOM Invader will click absolutely everything, but you're guaranteed that no redirection will happen. However, it will still note if there's going to be a redirection and catch that for us. So the other thing we're going to do, we're going to copy this canary and we're going to click reload. And we're going to go inspect. And we're going to go DOM Invader. And what we're probably going to do actually is choose inject URL parameters first. And then go back to this. I don't know why it closes, but whatever. There we go. So it injected the canary. So a canary is basically what they used to send. I mean, a canary is a bird, right? They used to send them down in mines. The idea being, if there was noxious gas down a mine, the canary would die, and when you bring it back up, it's a dead canary. So the idea of a canary here is it's a string of random characters that DOM Invader knows about, and it will track that canary. And if that canary ends up anywhere in the DOM, it will basically see, hey, has it passed anywhere interesting? And in this case, it's passed to jQuery attra href and element set attribute href. Okay? So the nice thing about this, though, is sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. But this exploit button is kind of cool. So if we click exploit, it's going to, okay, it's going to solve the lab for us immediately. But basically what it does is it says, okay, so we're injecting into an href. So I know that if I set the canary to JavaScript :alert1, that's potentially going to be exploitable. And in fact it is, because if I click here, that's exactly what happened. DOM is a URL. DOM is not, this is a big misunderstanding about what DOM XSS is. All DOM XSS is when a payload is placed into the DOM somewhere where you can exploit it, basically. This is pretty much, if we go into this page, I think if we search for JavaScript, yeah. So the key thing about DOM XSS is usually, you won't find it in the source code of the page. Usually what happens is there's some JavaScript code which runs and extracts it out of somewhere. In this case, the URL. But it doesn't have to be the URL. It could be anywhere, realistically. This is why I say technically it doesn't have to be from... technically it can appear in the page. Okay? But it might appear in the page in some unexploitable format, so you can't turn it into a reflected or a stored XSS. But you can take advantage of the JavaScript code that's been written by the developer and turn it into a DOM XSS. So yeah, here we go. Here's the actual JavaScript code that is vulnerable. It's basically taking the window location search, which is this thing, getting the return path value, so this thing, and sticking it in the href. Okay? But if someone says that DOM XSS means your payload never appears in the source code, they're wrong. You can have DOM XSS which extracts some value from an element anywhere and uses it dangerously. I guess we could use this one. Lab contains DOM XSS or DOM-based cross-site scripting in AngularJS with search functionality. Okay, but I would class this as CSTI rather than XSS if I'm understanding them correctly. I think CSTI is sufficiently different enough. So if we search test and then go to view page source and then search for the word test and zoom in. Where do we find it? Is it just once? Oops. Okay, it's here. But we are in an NG app. If you ever see this NG app anywhere, then, and you have stuff where you have reflected payloads, this is kind of funky because what you can usually do, I mean, actually, let's do it. Let's just do it in the source code first. So if I change test to that, okay, we have 7 times 7, right? If I put that in the actual page, we have 7 times 7. So I need to do, is it doubles, really? Okay, it was doubles. So if I do doubles here, right? If I do double curly braces surrounded by 7 times 7, hey, look. In the source code, it still says that, but in the DOM, in the page loaded, it says 49. Why? This is SSRF, right? No, sorry, this is SSTI. Yeah? How many times have we used SSTI? Looks like ST. Have you noticed something, chat? Every time I find SSTI, what do? What's my next thing? What's the first thing I check every time I get a payload like this? Literally every time. I've never not done it. I right-click and I click View Page Source. And I see if there's a 49 here. Because if there's not a 49 here, what does that mean? It means it's not SSTI. SSTI, the first S, means it's server side. Which means the 49 will appear in the source code of the HTML. When it doesn't, when you get this, but you get 49 here, that means it's client-side template injection. Basically, very common in AngularJS, also Vue.js as well, a few others. It uses basically the same syntax. But you should always, every time you find server-side template injection, you should look at the source code and make sure you actually have server-side template injection. Because sometimes you won't. And it'll save you a lot of pain if you suddenly try and exploit it. Alright? Try and always exploit server-side template injection in the source view, because it's just easier. What's the impact of CSTI? I mean, you can generate 49. That's not good enough for you. The impact is it's just another XSS. So if we go to Portswigger XSS cheat sheet, make it 69. All right, hang on. +9, I guess.
Nice.
All right, let's double check the source code again. Make sure that wasn't SSTI, right? No, it's just 60 + 9. Okay. So let's go to the cross-site scripting cheat sheet. And we'll scroll down to past all the regular stuff, past all of this. Oops. All the way down, down, till we get to, come on, client-side template injection. Vue.js. We're not in Vue.js. We are in AngularJS. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually check which version of AngularJS we're in. And I don't know why I'm doing it in this browser and not this one. So what we'll do is we'll go here. Okay, we're in AngularJS 1.7.7. This is very good. So I've talked about this on stream before, but we'll how do you know it's Angular? Well, it says Angular here. But also the ng app is pretty obvious. Usually that's Angular. But the great thing about client-side template injection is you have all the code. So you don't have to guess. You know how with SSTI we have to send a bunch of stupid payloads and try and figure out which freaking framework it is? Because there's about 100 of them. No, in client-side template injection, you just look at the source code and see what libraries are being loaded. In this case, it's AngularJS, but also you can just see this here, which is generally AngularJS. Okay, so it's AngularJS 1.7.7. I've talked about this on stream before. So AngularJS, you have to be very specific about the versions. Like this payload here works between version 1.0.1 and 1.1.5. So there's this one. This one only works between 1.2.0 and 1.2.1. This one between 1.2.2 and 1.2.5. Blah blah blah. And then we get down to here, and then we have greater than 1.6.0. And we're on, I mean, what's the latest version of Angular? It's actually quite a lot, I think. Because they're no longer AngularJS anymore. They're actually just Angular. So Angular is technically now, the stable release 1.8.3 12 months ago, because literally it's called Angular here. And Angular is on version 15.2.4 20 days ago. Why does this still work? Why aren't we seeing, like, oh, you know, between version 1.6 and 1.7? So the Angular devs were clever, and they figured out, yeah, okay, people probably will be able to execute JavaScript code using these. So they created the AngularJS sandbox, which was basically an attempt to run all the template code in a locked down environment where you couldn't access proper JavaScript functionality. Okay? And it worked until Mario found this one. And then they fixed it. And then Jan found this one and they fixed it. And then Gareth found this one. And then Jan again. And Matthias and Gareth and Gareth. You know Gareth. I've talked about him. He's the Prototype pollution go. Anything JavaScript he does, right? So we get down to here, and then we get down to this one, Jan Horn. This was technically the last one found. And you'll see how they get kind of complicated quite fast, right? So what happened when Jan found this one in 1.5.11? The Angular devs, well, actually, technically, every time one was found, the Angular devs fixed it. And they fixed it by making the sandbox more complicated and having more checks and etc., right? And then at this point, when Jan found this one, the sandbox had become so convoluted at trying to prevent these kind of attacks that it was actually slowing Angular down. So the sandbox was just getting ridiculously slow, to the point where it was like noticeably slow doing anything with templates. And it was just going to keep getting slower, because obviously we're just going to keep finding these, right? So we keep finding them again and again and again. And the only way of fixing them is to basically add checks for these kind of things. And so what they did in 1.6.0 is they removed the sandbox. They basically threw in the towel. And they said, we give up. Basically, if you use AngularJS with templates, you better make sure that you're using templates securely and not letting people enter stupid things, because we're not going to protect you anymore. Yeah, the hackers won. It was always going to happen, to be fair. So, as of 1.6.0, there are no sandboxes in Angular, which is why I believe, yeah, this is the initial constructor, and it's exactly the same as this one. So if we copy it, because basically, yeah, there's no sandbox anymore. There's no reason to do anything silly. So if we search the blog for this, boom, alert 1. Easy. Right? That's how easy the thing is. And you'll notice this is kind of almost like the prototype pollution thing. We're calling constructor. All we're really doing is basically saying, hey, can you just create an alert 1, please? I guess we could try this reflected DOM XSS. The exploit ones are quite boring, to be honest, because they're only useful for CTFs. Okay, let's go here. Oh, okay, so I do have DOM XSS, sorry, DOM Invader enabled. Lovely. What was the thing here? Okay. All right. Nice. So we'll do just a test, I guess. See what happens. Test. Blah blah. Okay. So what we're gonna do? We're actually gonna do a manual canary thing here. We're gonna search the blog for this. Oh look, there we go. Okay, so that, see how I meant, like, sometimes this doesn't work. But we did find it. So something is passed to eval. Let's have a look at where. Okay. So that's interesting. What's console? What console? This thing? This? This is when you can execute JavaScript or just do stuff. It's also, if you click this stack trace thing, it'll tell you basically where everything was. So actually, we can actually load the source code here. So what it does is, yeah, it evals so it creates a variable in the eval called search results object, which is set to whatever this is, which means, okay, all right. So basically, if we just go here, so go into raw mode. Basically, what's happening is if we copy this here, and go this. So basically, what's happening is this. It's evaling this statement. And we control this bit. So the question ultimately is, can we actually break out? Can we just send double quotes? %22. We can, they get backslashed. So the question immediately is, can we say, will backslashes get backslashed? No. Lovely. So what a backslash does in a JSON string is it escapes this. So even though we did send a double quote, the backslash escaped it. So it basically means, hey, this isn't actually a double quote. Right? Don't treat it like a double quote. But if we put a backslash, now the backslash that gets appended backslashes the backslash. So it says, hey, you know this backslash? This isn't a backslash. Which means that this is now a quote again. So if you're going to backslash double quotes, you should always backslash backslashes. In fact, if there's anything you should backslash, it's a backslash. Basically, escape backslashes if you can. So in this case, we can just do this. Then I presume we can do a %2b. Then we can do alert 1. And then we can figure it out with %2b again. And then a backslash %22. No, hang on. No, you know what's going to be easier? Just doing that and then that. Yeah, okay. Let's URL encode all that. So hopefully... Right, so what we have here, the search term is equal to this string concatenated with the alert function. And then we end the JSON object. And then we comment out everything after it. So this should work. We put the search thing up here. Yay! It worked. On the screen are my socials. Please follow me on Twitter, join the Discord server, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and of course follow me on Twitch to get alerted when I go live. You can also find all these links in the video description.